Hello and welcome to Bobbin Sewing School. My name's Ali Warner. I have over 30 years experience in dressmaking and alterations, and I've been teaching formally for the last 7 years. Today I'd like to show you how to create a tiny rolled hem on a fine fabric using just your basic sewing machine and no special equipment. So let's make a start.
Okay, so we're going to be putting a very tiny rolled hem on this lovely silk drapey fabric here. It's a beautiful silk, this one, silk chiffon fabric. And I've pinned the finished length, so this will be the finished length at this point here. So I'm just going to now press that along. So I'm pressing a crease at the finished length. So this will be the length that the actual garment will be finished at. So if you've got a variation, if you're actually altering a garment and you have had your model stood in their garment and you've pinned around the hem, you might find there's a discrepancy in the lengths, but just press a nice evenness around that hem. And now we're ready to take it to the sewing machine. Okay, so to get the best result for a little rolled hem, you need to use the correct needle. So if you're working on a cotton, you can use your universal needle, size 80 will be fine. But if you're working on a silk or a chiffon or something that's very fine, then you would want to use a ballpoint needle. Now these ones have got different sizes, they're 70s, 80s and 90s. So for the silk that I'm going to show you for the demonstration, we're going to use a 70. So I would be using the 70 in my machine. So you just pop that into your sewing machine. Right, so we're just using our normal basic mechanical machine and we're setting the stitch to a straight stitch A. For your fine cloth, you might want to use a slightly shorter stitch, so 2 in the stitch length is perfect. If you're altering an existing garment and it has a hem on it already, have a look at the stitch length that it has and just try on a little scrap of fabric to try to replicate that stitch length. It's always nice to try to replicate what the garment was like originally with your alteration. So I've positioned my fabric under the foot, so it's being held down, and you can still see this little fold. So I'm just going to now just stitch in right up against the crease that I'm making now, but with the little fold still visible. So this is the sort of hem that I would do on a lot of things. I've altered a lot of rolled hems and the bridesmaids' dresses, circular skirts, and with these hems you just want to create that little tiny fine hem. So here I am, so I'm going all the way down. Now I didn't mention, it's best to start, when you start hemming a dress or a skirt, at the side seam. That's the point where you get the overlap of the stitching. Don't start it at the back or at the front, always start it at the side seam. You work all the way round. We've got the first part of our hem stitched. We've got the little fold here, which will be the finished hem line, and we've got our little line of stitching here, which is holding the hem over. So eventually it will be like this. We're now going to take this hem out, and the excess fabric, this is the best way to do it, it gives you a better finish than trying to trim off first. Take the excess fabric out and some very sharp scissors, and I'm now going to trim away the excess fabric as close to those stitches as I possibly can that we've just done. So I always like to lay the garment over my hand, meaning that as you feel behind, you feel the scissors on your fingers, and you can make sure that you're pulling away the important part of your fabric as you go. So if I now pull this up here, you'll see I put my fingers behind, and I'm just going to now trim away the excess fabric. So we're going to do that all the way around the hem. So I've trimmed away all of the excess fabric, and what I'm left with is this little tiny little bit of fabric just inside there that's going to now turn over and be hidden away underneath the fold of the hem there. So here we are. So we can take it back to the machine and we can reposition again, start on that side seam if that's where you're starting, and take your thread ends to the back, and we can now re-stitch again along this little fold. So now we're creating the rolled hem properly. Okay, so we've got two little rows of stitching. This is a great method of hemming your fine fabrics. It's also extremely good on fabric that's been cut on the bias. So that's cut across the grain and that creates that lovely drapey effect. So you get a very lovely finish. I'm going to take that out of my machine now and I shall show you from the front. So here you have your little fold rolled hem. Very neat and very tidy all the way along. Lovely. And on the other side, just that's the underside, your 2 rows of stitching. There you are.